Hi, so update, I did have a baby, as evidence from this little succubus right here and definite mom hair. If you've been dying to know if I had an orgasmic birth, I would not call it orgasmic as in like, oh my God, but it was really orgasmic in the way that it was pretty easy when it comes to labor. So I will definitely take it. So I do want to tell you my birth story. I did record one small video and I have some photos that I might throw in here. So for anyone trying to have a natural / drug-free labor, hopefully this will help you or give you some ideas. One of the things that I do think set me up as much as possible for success was not getting induced. And I did go overall to 42 plus 4 days, which hospitals will not at all let you do. And most people get really afraid about it. But I've really had confidence in my birth team and on my body. So I decided to go until my baby was ready to come out, despite all of the mounting pressure from everybody. What ultimately I think finally pushed it over the edge a little bit was actually using my breast pump for the first time. I didn't get any colostrum, unfortunately, but I think I had it on there for 15 to 20 minutes. And right about then is when small contractions started. So if I had said that anything helped to actually induce me, it would have been nipple stimulation. So here's the story. It's a Thursday, hook up the pump, and I start getting a little bit of contractions. They were small though, but I'm figuring, oh, maybe they'll keep on going and I'll have the baby tonight. That is not what happened. I ended up basically being in early labor for over 24 hours, which wasn't bad. I mean, I went to sleep, which I would say has to be one of the best things that I could have possibly done, because my first labor, that I did the opposite. I stayed up all night trying to make labor happen, and labor doesn't really seem to work that way. At least that's what I learned with my first. So if you're in early labor, go to sleep. So that's what I did. Every time I would wake up and have a contraction, I would record it. And it was probably around every 10 to 15 minutes they were coming, and they were pretty small. I mean, I could just lay there and deal with it. But that was sort of how my early labor went. So here it is. Now it's Friday afternoon, and I've been updating my midwives every few hours to basically say, here's the situation. And they're kind of like, yeah, okay, keep them coming. So they're not coming yet. I'm just trying to see what I can do to make it really happen. I definitely call out of work because they're definitely coming a little bit more frequently, but they're still not that intense. They're pretty easy to deal with. Right now, contractions are between 5 and 10 minutes apart, lasting 1 to 1.5 minutes. They're moderately intense. Maybe later I'll describe them as not very intense at all. So yeah, I'm just trying to take it easy, rest, stay in good spirits, all that good stuff. I'm gonna wait to fill up the tub probably until the midwives get here. We don't know when that's gonna be yet. So far I'm still progressing a little bit slowly. So after we're kind of running around all day, getting everything, the house all prepped because we know it's actually going to be happening soon, one thing that we did that I was really excited for was in the room that I was going to give birth, we had this big beam at the top, but it's usually right above the bed. So I had this great idea to move the bed out of the way, put the pool like right underneath the beam, and then suspend a cable from that beam so that when I get in the pool, I have something to hang on. And I did that because with my first labor, my husband, like what made the contractions come so much faster was when I would lean on him and kind of squat down in like a really intense squat. And I was holding on to this rebozo over his neck, or just leaning on him. And I'll tell you, his back was destroyed after that labor. So I'm sitting there like, you know what? Maybe I can save your back and we can use the beam as this incredible tool. And I think that that was actually the best thing we possibly could have done. And it did get use, but probably not as much as I would have liked. So at around 4 p.m., I'm still texting the midwives saying, my contractions are definitely closer together, but they're still not that intense. And they were still somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes apart, maybe sometimes 7 minutes. But they kept on basically being like, okay, keep us posted. So then one of the midwives suggests doing the mile circuit, which I did a video about. I actually did it probably the week prior to help induce labor, which it didn't really work for that, but it also does help to have labor progress. So I decide, why not? Let me do the mile circuit. Now, if you didn't see that video, it's basically 3 different sets of moves that you do. You kind of hold for a half hour each. As soon as I started to do the ones with the movement, where you're kind of like throwing a leg up somewhere or doing stuff like that, my contractions started to get so much more intense. And now I'm actually in active labor. Yay! So now all of a sudden I need to get my husband's help for these contractions, because for the rest of the time, I've sort of been doing my own thing and just kind of breathing and doing the hypnobirthing stuff. It's all been fine. Now it's getting much more intense. So for me, what contractions feel like, especially when they get really intense, it almost feels like somebody's stabbing me from like my lower abdomen through to my back. And it's not really back labor, but I can definitely feel it in my back. So one of the best things to help me get through my contractions that my husband was able to help me with was doing the hip squeeze. And here is the reason why it ended up being super helpful. Oh, hi. Hang on, she needs a boop. So here are the 2 reasons why the hip squeeze was the most helpful thing to get through these really intense contractions. First of all, because my husband was squeezing a little bit too tight, it was causing extra pain. And that extra pain was able to distract me from the super crampy pain. And the second reason is because as he was compressing it, for whatever reason, it was much more easy for me to be able to focus on relaxing my pelvic floor than if I'm just focusing on the pain. Because when you're focusing on the crampy pain that you have, it's really hard to relax that. Whereas if I can focus on random pain in my hips, for whatever reason, it's easier for me to relax my pelvic floor. So I do think that that is one of the reasons why labor ended up progressing so quickly once I got to active labor, because I was able to relax my pelvic floor much more easily with this other distraction. Now my contractions are getting much more intense. I'm still texting the midwives being like, yo, are you coming? The contractions are lasting like 2 to 3 minutes each, which is pretty long, and they're about usually about 5 minutes apart. So I started telling the midwives that we're gonna start filling the pool, which honestly, we should have started earlier, because when it comes to filling a pool, I didn't realize that the water heater was gonna run out of a whole bunch of hot water before, when it's like only a quarter of the way full. And it takes a while to reheat a whole water heater. So that was our bad. So it took a lot longer for me to get in the pool than I would have wanted. At this point, now my mom, who's helping out, and she's running up and down the stairs, boiling different pots of water to throw that in while my husband's filling up the tub with cold water, and every couple minutes he needs to stop and squeeze my hips because I'm in pain. So this kind of went on for like an hour as we're filling up the pool. My son is having a blast. He goes in the pool at some point and he's splashing around and he's so excited. Now my contractions are getting a little bit worse, and I've moved on to making like different animal sounds to see if that will help, which it definitely does. And they decide that they're gonna come over, which I'm really excited for. So the midwives get there, and now I've been going through about maybe 2.5 hours of active labor, and I'm a little worried that they're gonna get there and say, oh, you're only like 4 centimeters. Sorry, but at least I have the pool. However, I'm waiting to get in the pool because now I want to have them check the baby. I did actually want them to do a cervical check to see sort of where I was at. So once all those checks are done, I finally get to get in the pool, and it's very relaxing. I end up having one pretty big contraction in the pool, which was great because I got to use the whole rigging system we had set up for. Then it ends up being like chill time. I end up getting a bit of time to sort of relax. I'm now in the pool, I'm happy, I'm content. Midwives are all there just sort of waiting. Now I don't know it, but I'm in transition. My husband, because he's been running around all day and it's been kind of like a hottish day, he's been talking about taking a shower for I can't even tell you how long. So he's like, I think I'm gonna hop in the shower. And I'm like, it's fine, go shower, because I'm got the pool, I got the rigging set up, my midwives are right over there if I need them, go shower, it's fine. Well, I end up having a contraction that rocks my body so hard that I basically could have given birth to my daughter in one push, I swear, if I had actually decided to go with it. So my water breaks, which is a little too bad because I was sort of hoping to have an on-call birth where the baby comes out in the sack. Didn't happen, but that's okay. The midwives come running in and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to shit all up in this pool. Cause that's a real feeling. So now everyone's in the room. I'm screaming in panic because I'm definitely not ready to push out this baby, but I know that it is that time. For my first, it took me 40 minutes, but I was also not really waiting for contractions. I just wanted to get him out so bad that I just pushed all the time, which I'll tell you, this was a much better and different experience. And since I had a 2nd-degree tear with my son, I figured I don't want to do that. Let me take the time and sort of not push and see what happens. So I decided to not push with the crazy pushing contraction, and I decided to hold back, and my body respected that, and it kind of said, all right, you know what? I think you need some chill time. So I did. I took some chill time. Now I'm trying to regroup. I don't know how long I have to regroup, but I'm trying to regroup and get in a space where I can push a baby out and feel really good about it. Now with my son, I was on my back, and that was the only position I didn't want to be on. In this case, what I did was I sort of got into a half squat position, half kneeling, and I was, for whatever reason, most comfortable in that position, and I waited. And I'm actually second guessing myself, thinking like, should I push? Because I know it's that time, but I'm not feeling it. So I'm just trying to kind of breathe and figure it out. My husband's reminding me like, no, that's one of the things that you said. You did not want to push until your body said to push. So you should listen to that. So I said, okay, he's right. Let me just wait. So I want to say it took about like 5 minutes for the next contraction to come, but it was unmistakable. This thing just came all the way over my body, and I pushed again. So the head came out in 2 pushes, and I didn't want to look, but the midwives are like, look, you can see, you can feel it. So there my baby's head is, I can feel it. And with the 3rd push within that contraction, the baby came out. I got to catch her and bring her to my chest. It was a little hard to do because the umbilical cord was kind of short. And she just started screaming. She wanted nothing to do with this. Meanwhile, I'm just in shock that I have gotten through this whole thing in 3 pushes and like 5 minutes. So that for myself was incredible. And none of us thought that this was going to happen. The midwives had only been there for like an hour or less. So now all of a sudden I have a baby in my arms that's screaming. And surprise, it's a girl. Thank God it was a girl, because we had 0 boy names picked out that we could agree on. So it was a girl, which was really exciting. One of the midwives ran to come up to get my son. He had wanted to be there, but it was sort of freaking him out. So it was fine that he wasn't there, but nobody expected it to happen so fast. So he came down to meet his new sister and also check out the umbilical cord, but she's also screaming still. Now I can also barely move because the umbilical cord is so short, so she's down. So I'm like hunched over trying to like hold her down, but also be like, hey, this is your new sister. You want to say hi? But she's screaming, and that is driving me insane because I'm not used to a screaming baby. That was a whole thing, to the point where I ended up being like, can somebody take my baby? Because I don't know what to do. I can't manage and I can't move. It's hard to maneuver. So one of the midwives held the baby while I kind of like moved around, and I ended up being like, how do I get the cord away? And she basically just said, try to push out the placenta. Sometimes it'll just come out with a small push. So that's what I did, and it came out, and of course the pool just filled with blood. So my poor son is like, I wanted to swim in there again. What just happened? So we dashed his dreams as far as swimming in the tub again, but it was fine. So now we can hold her again, we can cut the cord, we can get out. She is still screaming. So now it's like, I want to say 20, maybe 30 minutes later, at least in my brain, that's how long it's been. Now, I had wanted to do the infant crawl. And if you don't know what this is, if you put the baby on your belly, the baby will like do its own little crawl up to your boob. Like it might take 30 minutes, it might take less, it might take more time, but it's like they smell it or whatever. Now, here this baby is crying and I am being driven insane, and I feel really bad for my son because my son's like whole world just exploded. And now he's got this another being in his life who's going to change his world forever, and she won't stop screaming. So I didn't do the crawl, which I was a little sad about, but I really wanted her to shut up. I offered her my boob and she latched immediately. Granted, it was not that easy way after that, but at least at first she attached to a boob, and that was very exciting because she stopped crying finally. But she was super healthy. She was 8 pounds, 5 ounces, no tearing, nothing like that. She just kind of slid out, which was amazing, which definitely made my postpartum a dream compared to my last birth. So overall, I really could not have planned a better birth. Granted, it would have been really amazing to have an orgasm as she came out. However, honestly, if it's between like an orgasm and having her just come out super fast, I'll take super fast because I don't know how long it's going to take to have an orgasm after going through early and active labor. So that was my birth experience. Thank you so much for watching. And if you're going to be giving birth soon, I really do hope you have an amazing experience as well. And maybe even you will have a more orgasmic birth than I did. But regardless, I hope it is the kind of experience that you want. If you're not subscribed already, usually I do some pregnancy healthy tips, which I'll continue to do coming up, as well as postpartum tips. So please subscribe if you want to get some of those, and hopefully I'll see you again.